Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another booty video. This video, of course, for March of 2024. Nowhere near as long or as, how do I put this? Diverse, if you want to call it that, as February, because February there was a ton of stuff and a lot of changes have been happening around here, and I will allude to that in the April booty video, what I mean by that. But not so much coming in as of gaming wise, and but March literally was a quiet month. There were no figure pre-orders coming in, so that is somewhat thankful because those figures, when you pre-order a bunch of them, it all adds up. But thankfully a lot of them got delayed. Some of them are supposed to come out later this month. There was one in April, I believe, and that will be having its own unboxing video, as well as it'll be part of the April booty video. But what did I pick up in the month of March for you guys to check out? Well, since we're in spring now and baseball season is in full swing, obviously there's going to be a baseball video game. And the only really well-known one, at least for me, is MLB The Show. And that one this year I decided to double dip, if you will, because I started picking up MLB The Show in 2021, I think was the first one I ever played, and I got that on my PS5 originally. But it was a Sony exclusive up until MLB The Show 20. And 21 was the first year that it went multi-platform because it's a Sony exclusive and it's produced by Sony's San Diego studio. There is a version for the Xbox One, which I have shown in a previous booty video for this year, I believe, as well. What else? But in 2022 was the first time we ever got MLB The Show for the Nintendo Switch. And that was kind of around the year that I started getting back into following baseball as a whole. And as of right now, it's the sport I'm really immersed in the most. Not hockey, not football, definitely not basketball, but baseball. Because why? There's only one Canadian team. And what better way than the Home Run Derby champion of 2023 to be the cover athlete for MLB The Show 24. So this came out on March 19th, I believe, of 2024. MLB The Show 24 featuring Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now, I did say I double dipped, and the reason being because I have an Xbox Series X now. I prefer playing the sports games on that. I also picked up the Xbox Series X version, and this won't work on the Xbox One. And so I have them both. I have the show version for the for the Switch, and I have the Xbox version. So Xbox for trophies, and then of course the show. Just for playing portable baseball is always real cool, real cool. And my experience with the show, I love it. Like okay, maybe I put it a little bit on an easier difficulty setting, but I just love the mechanics of it, how easy it is to play it, pick up and play, and the varying options that you have to set up your play style, if you will. You don't have to go with what is standard for most things. So I'm sure like in some of the other sports games you can change around the settings, but MLB The Show is the one that is really nitty gritty and the fine tuning and the details and that kind of stuff. The sad thing though is that when I eventually do get back into streaming, I can't really stream that because it does have licensed music in it. And I remember when I was doing a Let's Play video for MLB The Show 22 on the old YouTube channel, my video got not a strike, but kind of like a warning, if you will. And that kind of just put a sour taste in my mouth for like, streaming or making videos, with licensed music in it. So I was kind of in the moment, so I know that not to stream, those kinds of video games because, then everything, because all of those games have licensed music in it. Not so much so with like, your standard, like, Final Fantasies or your standard Mega Man games or anything like that. Those have a specific composer linked to it. It's not like some major like Pearl Jam or something like that will appear in the thing somewhere, and then you have to pay everybody royalties. So anyway, MLB The Show, great game if you love baseball. game specifically. It's like the definitive baseball game in my mind. Of course, at the end of the month of March, we went to our first Toronto Gaming Expo, and we've gone 2 previous times before. The initial one being a year ago when it was just half of the building, and then we went in the fall when they vastly improved on it. So this is their second time where they used the whole building. So what did I pick up from this show, which has gotten a variety of different things other than gaming? So there is some anime stuff, there is some art stuff, and it's become a more multi-faceted event, if you will. And it's one of my favorite ones to go to, that I definitely go to or look forward to going to every time it comes around. The next time being on my birthday on November 16th, which is the fall edition. So I'll definitely be going to that one. But what did I pick up this time around? Not so much, but key items I did pick up. So the first one being, this is technically the beginning of the timeline for this franchise, but it's not the first game in the franchise. And that being Castlevania Lament of Innocence for the PlayStation 2. Now, if ever you watch the anime series on Netflix, which is based off of Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, they do mention, at least in passing, the very first Belmont, or the guy who took up the mantle, if you will, to become the vampire killer, and that being Leon Belmont. So this is the first game to actually feature Leon as a playable character, let alone it is the beginning of the, how can I put this, the duel, or the so-called decades-old battle between the forces of darkness and the Belmont clan. That being, of course, Dracula and whatnot. Now, one thing I do mention when we go to cons like this, like when we're looking at old used video games, is we always look at the GameEye app for the current market value of something. So at that point in time, I believe the market value for a complete inbox with manual and everything for this game, at least on that day, was about $28. And I paid $30, so slightly over, but still not bad. And I gauge it basically when, if you're going to be paying over what the market value is, $5 is probably like the maximum I would pay over what the market value on the app says for the item in question. And if the seller is selling that to you and asking way over $5 of what the market value says, I pass on it all the time, because that's just you being taken for a ride. And I will get to another example of that in this very show that happened when I was looking for other stuff. But $2 over the market value, that's not too big of a dent in the wallet. And it's also, to my knowledge anyway, it's one of the first, it's not the first, but it's the second 3D Castlevania in the series. I believe the first one was Castlevania 64, which has a mixed response, because some people love it, some people hate it. I have not played it myself. I have seen a bit of this in action, and it looks pretty cool and looks pretty... There's a thing about doing stuff in 3D and doing it right. So Mega Man X7 seems to come to mind, but we'll not talk about that. We'll keep that for another video. Another one that came into sights, again, since it was rebuilding PlayStation 4, I was really just looking around to see what was around. I didn't have any specific purpose as to what I wanted to pick up, but when you find anime games and you find Senran Kagura of all games, and it's a decent price, you take notice. And this one I got below the market value, which is definitely a plus for me, because in this day and age, Senran Kagura games are not very common to find at conventions. And if you go online to look for them, they're pretty expensive. And I'm glad I picked this one up, because this is the last one I was needing for my collection for the Senran Kagura series, at least in terms of the home console market. The others being Estival Versus, Peach Splash was another one, and then the remaster or reimagining of Burst, which is the very first game in the series. There is a Switch version of this, and I do have that, but this is the PlayStation version, so obviously you get trophies and that kind of thing. But very different game because it's a crossover game. It's listed under as a Neptunia game over a Senran Kagura game, which was not the selling point for me. I don't really care so much about the Neptunia stuff. I care about the Senran Kagura stuff. That was the main selling point for me for this one. But definitely got it for under the market value, which is pretty good. Especially for a game that's about, I would say, maybe at least 3 years old. And a lot of places, if you do find it new, it's still selling for what it goes for new, which is about $57, $60. Which is not nice. But anyway, sometimes you get good deals. Another thing, this is the last thing I picked up at the show, and probably the last item for this video, which was a piece of art, which definitely, I don't have enough art. Well, maybe I do, but it was, you know how people like to make those little pixelated pixel art things. So I got one, and it's in a frame, and it's really nice looking, of my favorite, or my very first waifu. So this is a Sailor Mercury pixel art, obviously with the normal artwork in the background. And the pixel art kind of just reminds me of, you know, the classic 16-bit style or 8-bit style or chibi art style. And I thought this was really cool, so I picked this up. And I hung it on my wall beside Castlevania and Anniversary Collection poster over there. But yeah, really cool to find that. And obviously, it's got promotion for who made this, and they handmade it, and that's really cool. So if I see like any of this other stuff at events like this in the future, I'll definitely see if they have other characters I like. Well, Sailor Mercury being one of my favorite characters of all time. But that is it for the pickups part of this. Now, what I wanted to mention though, about this event, specifically with the Game I Am, as I said, when you are going or have an idea of what the value of something is, trust your gut in knowing if you're being taken for a ride or ripped off or whatnot. Most of the time when Shay, Riley, and myself are going to these events, we're hoping to get complete in-box games, specifically more so with the disc-based games. So we're talking like your 6th generation onwards. So, and maybe even 5th generation to a certain extent. But basically these games are disc-based games. So we're talking like original PlayStation, we're talking Dreamcast, we're talking PlayStation 2, GameCube, Xbox, Dreamcast. If I said that twice, I'm sorry. And onwards and onwards, because most people, at least the other companies other than Nintendo, have moved away from the cartridge-based format. And with older games, like the cartridge-based games, like the N64, the Super Nintendo, things like that, we're okay to like pick up cartridges of those, even repos, which I have picked up here and there, ongoing on like gaming hunts and stuff like that. But if you have a game that's complete, for example, if you look on your Game I app on the listing for every single game, they have what the value is of the manual, what the value is of the box / case, if it's complete in box, and the value of if it's like sealed and brand new, according to what the market dictates. Now, I know sellers will probably bulk up the price a bit on certain things. So let's, for example, that Castlevania, it was worth 28 bucks, but I paid 30. That's not too bad because that's within $5 range. So one of the other things I was looking for, because I'm starting to rebuild or acquire key Xbox titles, specifically for the first Xbox, was Fable, right? And you would think that's not a hard thing to find. It's pretty common. And I don't think I found it on any of the tables, at least in good condition. So I found one that was pretty good, like almost near mint, near new. And I think this is a cash only event, at least to my knowledge, at least at this point. And I had about, I think, $25 left of whatever my budget was, and I found that at the table, like, and this is like on the way out when we're deciding to leave. So I found this, and I'm just like, I'd like to, how much is this? Because there was no price listing on it. At least the Castlevania had a sticker on it, how much it was. So I asked the guy, and then he's got to go look it up. And then he looks it up and he says he wants $20 for it. So what does the app tell me? The app tells me brand new, or at least complete in box. This title, Fable, is going for $13. So that's over the $5. So I passed on it. And you know, I could have just bought the bullet, or bite the bullet if you will, and paid $20 and picked up Fable. But then I would be like down to my $5, and I couldn't get anything with $5. So I said no, I'm gonna pass on it, because in my mind you're taking me for a ride, especially when the market value or the app says it is worth $13 and you're trying to upsell me for $7 because it's newer looking. Now, if it was like completely sealed, it would probably be worth a lot more than $20. But just be careful on when you're going to these gaming shows to, you know, do a little bit of your homework. The Game app is the Game Eye app is a very valuable resource for determining the market value of something. In the previous video I alluded to, when we went to the local convention, I remember I said I got hosed about $30. Like, I paid $90 and the thing was worth $60 on the app. So just be careful of those kinds of things. I'm a little bit more cautious now when I'm looking at specific things, because there are dealers who know what they're talking about, and there are guys who are literally, they are out to lunch. Like, they could sell you a complete in-box thing of like Super Nintendo games, and the complete in-box value is like way overinflated. Like, let's say Chrono Trigger is worth $500 or something like that for like a complete in-box one. It's actually worth more, but they'll like bump it up to like 2,000. You know, like they're literally like out to lunch, and those guys are probably easier to spot than little things like this. So just be careful out there when you're, you know, you want to pick it up, but you don't want to be taken for a ride either. So that's just my 2 cents on that kind of thing. That's literally the pickup video for March. It didn't pick up so much. April is probably going to be a little bit of the same, not so much coming in. So it's going to be on the shorter side. So, but this is a good thing, I think, in my mind, and I think I've talked too much now. But anyway, thank you very much for checking out the March booty video. I hope you enjoyed it. There's definitely going to be one for April coming around. This is actually May when I'm filming this, because of what I'll talk about at the end of the April video. But thank you very much for checking it out for the 3rd time. And stay beautifully imperfect out there. Take care of yourselves and each other. Be kind to yourselves and each other. Remember, kindness is king. And y'all, keep up the awesomeness, and we will see you on the flip side. Take care.